مسجل انت؟ بدأ التسجيل. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر.
لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله الحمد لله ثم الحمد لله. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستهديه ونسترشده ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله خير نبي اشتباه وهدى ورحمة للعالمين أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره الكافرون. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم، وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي الخاطئة بتقوى الله، وأحثكم وإياي على طاعته، وأستفتح بالذي هو خير. قال الله عز وجل: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تنصروا الله ينصركم ويثبت أقدامكم. Which means in English, oh you who have believed, if you support Allah and follow His law, He will support you and plant firmly your feet. I titled the khutbah today, How to Measure the Help of Allah Azza wa Jal. And I took an example, how to measure a conquest. Now there is a conquest of Spain, and how to measure how the Muslims behaved in Spain to bring Islam to Spain, and how did they behave, and how the army behaved, and did they follow the law of Allah Azza wa Jal. And what is the law of Allah Azza wa Jal? When it comes to overturn a tyrant, an unjust government, a savage leader? How would you behave to succeed? And subhanAllah, Allah showing us through the history and the last 20, 30 years how things were done rightly or how things were done wrongly and failed. Obviously, we will not guess which one is actually going to succeed or not, or what's the end result of a revolution and take over. Now, Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَلَقَدْ صَدَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ وَعْدَهُ إِذْ تَحُسُّونَهُم بِإِذْنِهِ حتى إذا فشلتم وتنازعتم في الأمر وعصيتم من بعد ما أراكم ما تحبون منكم من يريد الدنيا ومنكم من يريد الآخرة ثم صرفكم عنهم ليبتليكم ولقد عفا عنكم والله ذو فضل على المؤمنين. And here I just picked part of the ayah to translate. And Allah has certainly fulfilled His promise to you when you were killing the enemy by His permission until the time when you lost courage and fell into disputing about the order given by the Prophet ﷺ and disobeyed after he had shown you what you loved, which is the winning, the gain, the spoils. Because the Sahaba in Uhud, they started collecting the spoils. They won the war and they even started collecting what the enemy left behind. So those guarding their back on the hill, they left where they were ordered to stay, and they came down, not to miss the spoils. This is why Allah said, some of you wanted this life and some of you wanted the hereafter. Among you are some who desires the world, this world, and among you some who desires the hereafter. Even Abdullah ibn Abbas said, I never knew that some of us were desiring this world. So no wonder they lost in Uhud. The first ayah, if you support the call of Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah will support you. So what's the law of Allah Azza wa Jal? Now Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, when he rebuilds Kaaba with his son, and he made this dua, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا بَلَدًا آمِنًا وَارْزُقْ أَهْلَهُ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ مَنْ آمَنَ مِنْهُمْ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ قال الله عز وجل قال ومن كفر فأمتعه قليلا ثم أضطره إلى عذاب النار وبئس المصير. So the law of Allah Azza wa Jal, this life is not restricted to those who believe. Although Ibrahim wished that, he said, they make this life and people who are in this town, given the sustenance and given the wealth and given the food and whatever, to those who believe. And Allah Azza wa Jalla said, no, you got it wrong. Those who believe and those who disbelieve. Because this is the way this life is run by Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, كُلًّا نُمِدُّ هَؤُلَاءِ وَهَؤُلَاءِ مِنْ عَطَاءِ رَبِّكَ وَمَا كَانَ عَطَاءُ رَبِّكَ مَحْظُورًا. Say, we give those and those from the gift of your Lord, and the gifts of your Lord is not restricted to any party in this life. The hereafter, those who don't believe will go to hellfire, those who believe go to Jannah. And Allah Azza wa Jalla said, مَنْ كَانَ يُرِيدُ حَرْثَ الدُّنْيَا نُزِدْ لَهُ فِي حَرْثِهِ وَمَنْ كَانَ يُرِيدُ حَرْثَ الْآخِرَةِ من كان يريد حرث الآخرة نزد له منها ومن كان يريد حرث الدنيا نؤته منها وما له في الآخرة من نصيب. So another way in saying it, whoever wants the hereafter, whoever desires the harvest of the hereafter, we increase for him his harvest. And whoever desires the harvest of this world, we give him thereof, but he will not have anything in the hereafter. No key is clear from Allah Azza wa Jal. وَمَنْ يُرِدْ ثَوَابَ الدُّنْيَا نُؤْتِهِ مِنْهَا وَمَنْ يُرِدْ ثَوَابَ الْآخِرَةِ نُؤْتِهِ مِنْهَا وَسَنَجْزِي الشَّاكِرِينَ. Whoever wants gain in this life, whoever wants reward in this life, we will give him of it. He didn't say we'll give him all of it. نُؤْتِهِ مِنْهَا. some of it. And whoever wants the akhirah, the reward in the akhirah, in the hereafter, he will be given, and Allah will thank those who are thankful. There's many ayahs like this. من كان يريد العاجلة عجلنا له فيها ما نشاء لمن نريد. Again, if he wants the reward now, Allah will give you. But he will have nothing in the hereafter. He will have Jahannam the hereafter. وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةَ, whoever wants the next life, Allah Azza wa Jalla will give it to him, but he has to do what it takes. وَسَعَى لَهَا سَعْيَهَا وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ, while he believes. And then his effort will be thanked by Allah Azza wa Jalla. So when you look into the movement of Muslims, and I was looking in particular into what happened in Syria, and being Syrian I left Syria in 1977 to go back in 1990. I didn't go from 1981 to 1990. When I went to 1990, the secret police, the military police, secret service, they had my name to chase him and get him arrested. So I went to this intelligent base, which is 293, Farah 293. So I went there, and they said, we have this, that, we have to chase you and arrest you. It's okay, arrest me. They did arrest me. I said, no, come tomorrow. I came tomorrow, and they interrogated me. I'm living in Britain. At that time, I was in Wales. And are you arresting me today? No, come tomorrow. For 3 weeks, come tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. They wanted money. I didn't want to pay money. I knew what they want. They know what they want. They don't want me. But what's for? Why I'm to be arrested? Nobody knows. We just had this. And we're waiting the general to come from America. He's having an operation on his heart. Then he will decide to go out of Syria or not. Now, I didn't go back until 2006. I came back here in one way or another, went back in 2006. When I went 2006, before the uprising in 2011, and I went and I didn't go until I had the office of the president phoning the ambassador of London, Syrian ambassador, that no, he can't go, there's nothing against him. So I went. But when you listen to people there, especially from 2011 until now, nearly not a single one but had been either arrested, stayed in prison for 1 hour, like my cousin he's super rich, he's there, and his partner wants to move him away from out of the way to take all the wealth, and he failed because my cousin has more power than the partner, so he managed to get out within 1 hour. My brother stayed for 6 hours because my cousin got him out because my cousin have power and things. So it's a matter, if you don't have anybody, you don't know anybody, you stay there. 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you get killed there, you get tortured, you get whatever. Now, there's a lot like this in Iraq. There were a lot like this not as bad as Syria, but there were some in Yemen, there were some in Iraq, some in Egypt, some in Sudan, some in Libya, some in Algeria, every country. I don't know about Pakistan, so Saad probably next time will tell us. But how to unroot a government like this and being Islamic? You don't fall against the law of Allah Azza wa Jal. So most of the scholars in Syria were saying you can't raise arms against the president or the king or the sultan or the khalifa unless he does one of two things. Either ban salah or openly claim that he is kafir, which Assad never did any of these two, neither his son. So the armed uprising didn't succeed. Didn't succeed in Egypt, didn't succeed in Iraq, didn't succeed in any of the countries. So what made the difference in Syria, which I mean, obviously, I've listened to a lot of them, what they said. The people did more or less like what the Prophet ﷺ did, obviously with vast differences, they immigrated to a place where it is outside Syria. And they opened like a country of their own. So Idlib was like a small country, and they were building themselves, building their arms, building their experience, and formed a government there with the prime minister and ministers. The current prime minister in Damascus now, Mohammed al-Bashir, was the prime minister in Idlib. So they had like a small country outside Syria, in a way. And Assad have no control over it. I went there once, and you can move freely and, see, talk, whatever. I was treating people at that time with the post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and I felt really they were enjoying the freedom there. Now, they probably were clever enough to spot the right time because Assad wouldn't succeed in Syria without getting Hezbollah from Lebanon, the Iranian militia, the Hashd al-Sha'bi from Iraq, all Shia, the Shia from Pakistan, the Shia from Afghanistan. So those who were killing the Sunni were not the Alawi. Because when the Shia left, Hezbollah left, the Iranian left, the Pakistani Shia went and the Afghani Shia went, they crumbled like a house of cards. They just collapsed. The Alawis collapsed by, he blew on them, and they fell. So they made probably the right decision to come to Syria, the mother like going to Mecca, back to Mecca in the right time. But they did it in extreme secrecy that probably they don't have insiders telling Americans and the Mossad and the Iranians or the Russians or the other Arabs what they're doing. All of them suddenly discovered they've done it. Now everybody blame everybody else, saying it's American plot, it's Israeli plot, it's Russian plot, it's whatever plot, whose plot, that plot, Turkish plot. But probably they did something really correct Islamically. There's no uprising inside against the ruler. They have their own ruler running that country, small country, for a while. And they did really something very, very clever, which I think, because I was teaching my students how the Muslims went into Spain. When they went into Spain, Tariq ibn Ziyad, there is a river there in the third part of Spain, and he reached that river to face his enemy coming, the Spanish army is coming from the north, with the king and his two brothers, or his two sons. And what Tariq ibn Ziyad did, they lined here to fight him. Tariq ibn Ziyad, he smuggled two armies to the back of the Spanish. And they start hitting the Spanish from the back. And the whole army disintegrated, went into disarray. The two brothers left and ran away. The king, nobody knows what happened to him. Some say he drowned, some say he was killed, some say he ran away and didn't know where he ended. But that's what this group, Ahmad al-Shari, did. They sent army behind Assad's army to the back of it and ambushed them from the back. They were using something else, which I always believe, current war cannot be done with the current weapons. Throwing missiles, bombing from distance, cruise missiles, that missiles, guns, whatever, heavy guns, because you kill a lot of innocent. You kill a lot of people who have nothing to do with the war, they're probably against it, and you destroy a lot of properties, probably destroy cats and dogs and that annoy a lot of pet lovers in many countries. So they did use the drone. And the drone, they just go and see the target, hit the target itself. The tank, the guns, the big guns, and the fighters who are fighting them. And that's Islamic. Because I'm wondering why Allah Azza wa Jalla allowed them to win in no time. Within 10 days, nobody thought they would even pass Homs. And that's really great things, that you don't actually hit innocent people. You don't destroy property. You don't destroy buildings. You don't go to mosques and synagogues and churches and destroy it. That's against Islamic. Because we're analyzing why these people won in that speed with no bloodshed. When you do the right things, then Allah Azza wa Jal, what He did in Badr, He said, إذ أوحى ربك إلى الملائكة إني معكم فثبتوا الذين آمنوا إذ يوحي ربك إلى الملائكة إني معكم فثبتوا الذين آمنوا سألقي في قلوب الذين كفروا الرعب فاضربوا فوق الأعناق واضربوا منهم كل بنان. And remember when your Lord inspired the angels, I am with you, so strengthen those who have believed. I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieved. So strike them upon the neck and strike from them every fingertip. And that's, subhanAllah, that's what we saw. Because no one can go and say, oh, that group really following Islam. But you see the sequence of events. Why would the army just leave their weapons and run away? They ran away in Aleppo, they ran away in Hama, they ran away in Hummus. In Hummus, they were a bit trying to be resistant, so they bypassed Hummus, went to Damascus, so the Hummus army, the Assad army ran away. And then the army in Damascus ran away, and Daraa ran away, everywhere ran away, then the president ran away. Fear in the heart of your enemy is enough to make you win. No bloodshed. They didn't kill any. They didn't even arrest the enemy. They just took over. We listen to a lot of what they say. I haven't picked anything, just a small one yesterday. One of the ministers mentioned that women might not be able to do certain jobs, which is true, but it's not the time to say things like this. But the rest were saying the right things to the right people. Jeremy Bowen interviewed Ahmed al-Shara for 23 minutes. He managed to be really super quiet, super relaxed, and he answered correctly. So we hope, inshallah, they will be following the message of Allah Azza wa Jal, the true way of fighting your enemy. You take the right measure, the right steps, in the right time. I was trying to trick him through a lot of things and about Israel, about America, about this, about that, about the head cover. He said, you tell me about the head cover. We have no food, no drink, no electricity, no gas, no money in the bank. The guy and his followers, Bashar al-Assad and all the Alawis, the big guns of them, they robbed the whole bank. The whole bank has only $22 billion in a country which is supposed to be oil producer. So when you follow the message of Allah Azza wa Jal, and these sort of things is not actually easily done. I think if this guy decides to fight against Israel, probably they will use drones. Drones, probably you hit your enemy without losing any, what Hamas was doing, they were throwing these missiles, and they digged around 200,000-300,000 holes in Israel, but didn't kill people, didn't kill the army. The army was ready to come and kill Hamas and their followers. So probably that way is not Islamic. You can't throw a missile to land wherever. And it's not strategically correct. And it's not strategically correct and go and expose your people to imminent death. I mean, I spoke about this a few months ago, not a few months, I spoke about it in October last year. And as predicted, they killed 1,400 of the Israelis, they killed around 100,000 from Gaza, destroyed now nearly 85% of Gaza. So the mentality of Muslims are not in the mind. The mind of Muslims is not to destroy property, not to kill your own people, not to kill innocent people. It's just be targeting your enemy. So if that's what they are following, probably they might be on the right path. They have millions of enemies. When they were in Aleppo, Arab media were fighting them. They were saying to the general public, fight against them, they are terrorists. How do you know they are terrorists? What's the definition of terrorists? Terrorists. And we had more of them. Actually, one of them said the economy in Syria collapsed. The dollar was, he said, reached 40,000. And when he was talking, in fact, the dollar went to 10,000. Before the fight was 15,000. It even improved, the Syrian pound improved. But they have enemies from inside Muslims. They have enemies from inside the Arabs. They have enemies, obviously. Israelis took advantage of that and they destroyed 80% of the weapons in Syria. Is that good for the revolution or bad? I don't know. If they were relying on drones, they don't need all these planes and guns and tanks. Probably it will be only, when we saw it on the videos, they were rusty or not functional. Probably this is why also the army didn't actually use it to fight them. So going back to the khutbah, how do you measure a conquest? How do you measure the help of Allah? Why the help of Allah didn't come to this group, came to that group? Why it came to a group and then withdrawn by Allah? It's not what happened in Egypt. They won the government. Muhammad Morsi became president, to be taken away from him after 1 year. This guy, he dissolved the army. There's no army. There's no military service. So which army is going to take over from him? Is this a right move or not? I don't know. But he just closed all the intelligent places and he dissolved the army. And he is employing now new army. He left the police in charge of the security and the peace and the safety of people. And it seems people believing him. It seems people went out and they celebrated. And if you come to my house, my wife always watching all this news. It's an Islamic base. Syria and part of the whole Sham, Islamic base. If it remains strong, probably it will enlarge. Most of the Arab leaders are terrified what happened to Syria, because the others are looking what they've done to succeed. So we ask you to pray for them, and inshallah Allah Azza wa Jalla will keep them on the right path, protect them from their enemy, enlighten their mind, because there's still many things they tune in correctly. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله. That clock disappeared from there. That's the guide for the Imam to stop. Alhamdulillah, ثم alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah نحمده ونستعين به ونستهديه ونسترشده ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله خير النبي اجتباه وهدى ورحمة للعالمين أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. As a key were found, a house key, so the guy who was sleeping in the hotel from last week till this week, collect your keys from Brother Shazad. Just a couple of ayah, I thought, mentioning them. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَرَدَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِغَيْظِهِمْ لَمْ يَنَالُوا خَيْرًا وَكَفَى اللَّهُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الْقِتَالَ. Now in Badr, in Uhud, إِذْ يُغَشِّيكُمُ النُّعَاسُ أَمَنَةً مِّنْهُ وَيُنَزِّلُ عَلَيْكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً يُطَهِّرُكُم بِهِ وَيُذْهِبَ عَنكُم رِجْزَ الشَّيْطَانِ وَلِيَرْبِطَ عَلَى قُلُوبِكُم وَيُثَبِّتَ بِهِ الْأَقْدَامَ. In Badr, Allah Azza wa Jalla sent the angels and they were fighting with the Muslims. In Uhud, when the Muslims made these mistakes and things, Allah still supported them and even made them sleep. Some of them said they were taken by sleepiness and they saw the drops from their hand. And then they got it right. They learned from Uhud, they learned from Badr. In Al-Khandaq, Allah said, don't need to fight, don't worry. I will fight on your behalf, and Allah Azza wa Jal send the tornadoes and push the enemy in no time. And Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَرَدَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِغَيْظِهِمْ. He sent back all these kafirin, full of anger, and he spared the Muslims the fight. And this became, are this group actually really on the right path that Allah spared them the fight? Allah saved them. There were no fight. Few fights when Aleppo, but because they came from the back of the army. They didn't have any resistance, but there were no fight in Hama or Hamas or Daraa or Damascus or Suwaida or Deir ez-Zor. There's little pocket in the northeast supported by USA, sitting there, supporting the Kurd against the Turkish view. And there's the Russians still sitting in two places in the east, and I think they are playing the political game now. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات المسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها فنعم المولى ونعم النصير والحمد لله رب العالمين. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون وأقم الصلاة. We have a good imam now, good muazzin, mashallah.
الله 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 لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله.